Imagine this. You're standing in a pharmacy aisle, staring at a wall of painkillers. Tylenol, Advil, Aleve, the extra strength versions, the PM versions. Basically, a chemical buffet of promises. And what do? You grab the same pill you've been swallowing for years, pop it in your mouth, and pray it kicks in before your Zoom meeting starts. Here's the problem. You're not treating the pain. You're tranquilizing it like a zookeeper with a dart gun. And guess what? That pain isn't going anywhere. It's just hiding in the bushes, waiting to pounce again. We live in a world where billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies convince us that suffering is just normal. Back hurts? Take a pill. Headache? Take a pill. Depressed because your life sucks? Here. Take a pill. We've been brainwashed into thinking relief comes in a bottle, not realizing we're just duct taping over a leaking pipe instead of fixing it. And if that stung a little, good. Because the truth is, your pain might not even be about your body. It might be about your brain, your habits, or the lies you've been sold by an industry that profits every time you hurt. This book, It Doesn't Have to Hurt, Your Smart Guide to a Pain-Free Life, was written by Dr. Sanjay Gupta. You probably know him as CNN's chief medical correspondent, the guy who explains medical crises to millions of people without putting them to sleep. But before the cameras, Gupta was a neurosurgeon, literally the guy digging around in people's brains and spines. He's not just another doctor cashing in on book sales. He's been on the front lines of pain, addiction, and the broken healthcare system. And here's the kicker. Gupta's main argument is radical in its simplicity. Pain doesn't always have to be endured. It doesn't always require opioids, endless scans, or even surgery. With the right understanding of how pain actually works, how your brain interprets it, how your body responds, you can take control back. But let's set one thing straight before we go further. This video falls under fair use. It's for educational purposes only. I'm not here to regurgitate Sanjay Gupta's words like a robot audiobook. I'm here to confront you with them, to rip them apart, reframe them, and shove the truth in your face. Because you and I both know most people won't pick up this book. So I'm going to distill it, call out the hypocrisy it exposes, and add my own take. And if that offends you, great. Because pain doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your excuses. And this book, if you actually apply it, might be the first time in your life you stop being a victim of it. Welcome to Mindful Reads Hub. Let's get started. Into the Fire, a doctor's reckoning with pain. You think pain is just a nuisance, right? That thing you push through, pop an Advil for, and flex about later at work like, oh yeah, my back's been killing me, but I'm tough. That's the lie. Pain isn't a side quest. It's the boss battle. And the terrifying part? It doesn't care if you're tough. It doesn't care if you're disciplined. Pain is the silent referee that decides how much of your life you actually get to play. For Sanjay Gupta, this wasn't theory. It was his mom. A woman who was basically a superhero, a first-generation immigrant, an engineer, the kind of person who shrugs off breast cancer like it's a paper cut. But when she fell and cracked her spine, suddenly the invincible mom who never complained couldn't even get out of bed. She looked at her son, the neurosurgeon who saves lives for a living, and said, "I cannot live like this." Imagine hearing that from your own mother. Imagine the strongest person you know admitting they're ready to quit because pain stole their will to live. That moment cuts through every myth we have about pain, because here's the ugly truth. Pain isn't about strength. It's not about grit. It's about biology hijacking your brain until you don't even recognize yourself. Gupta's mom went from soldiering through life to whispering about death in the space of one fall. That's not weakness. That's how merciless pain is. And you walk around pretending pain is no big deal. You limp around after tweaking your back at the gym, pop ibuprofen like Tic Tacs, and act like you're invincible. But deep down, you know the truth. Pain dictates what you can and can't do. It decides when you sleep, what you eat, how you move. It decides whether you show up for your kids or cancel plans again because you just don't feel right. Pain isn't in your schedule. It is your schedule. Gupta learned that the hard way as a neurosurgeon. You'd think cutting into brains would be the hard part of his career. No, it's listening to people tell him their lives were being shredded by something you can't see on a scan. Pain makes liars out of MREs. You can have someone with a perfectly clean image screaming in agony, and another with a spine that looks like spaghetti who barely feels a thing. Pain is personal, messy, and worst of all, subjective. That means the system we trust to treat it often doesn't even believe it's real. That's why Gupta starts this whole journey not with medical jargon, but with stories. Like Bess Talbot, a lawyer and mom whose migraines got so bad she begged doctors to find a brain tumor, because at least then there'd be a surgery, an answer, an end. Read that again. She prayed for a tumor just to make sense of her pain. If that doesn't scare you into taking pain seriously, nothing will. And yet, we live in a culture that trivializes pain. Walk it off. Mind over matter. Don't be dramatic. We treat people in agony like they're lazy or weak, when in reality they're fighting an invisible war every second of every day. And here's where Gupta flips the script. Pain isn't just a signal from your body. It's a story written in your brain. Your experiences, your traumas, your genetics, even whether your boss yelled at you this morning, all of it rewires how you feel pain. Which means treating it with one-size-fits-all pills is like trying to fix a shattered windshield with a band-aid. The real scandal? We've been conditioned to believe pain is something we just have to accept, like aging, taxes, or terrible Wi-Fi. But Gupta's entire point is that pain isn't inevitable. It's negotiable. You can't always eliminate it, but you can rewrite your relationship with it. You can reclaim control, but only if you stop lying to yourself and confront it head on. So here's the reckoning. If you're living in pain, stop pretending it's just part of getting older. Stop letting Big Pharma sedate you into submission. Stop waiting for the day it magically disappears. It won't. Pain is not just going to pack up and leave because you toughed it out. If you don't face it, it will own you. If you don't rewire how you respond, it will turn you into a shell of yourself. Gupta's wake-up call is brutal but freeing. Pain doesn't always have to mean suffering, but that freedom doesn't come from another pill, another surgery, or another Google search at 2 a.m. It comes from paying attention, listening to your body, digging into the root cause instead of numbing the symptoms. Pain is your body screaming, something needs to change. And if you ignore it, don't be surprised when it changes you instead. Key takeaway: pain is not weakness. It's not all in your head. It's a full-body, brain-driven experience that demands to be confronted, not avoided. The moment you stop treating it like background noise and start treating it like the enemy is the moment you begin to take your life back. Favorite quote: to someone who's suffering, pain is an objective fact, but the subjective nature of it makes every person an expert on their own pain. The silent epidemic, a nation under siege. We live in a country that acts like pain is some private little inconvenience, something you should keep to yourself while you smile politely at work and grind through it in silence. But peel back the curtain and it's everywhere. Chronic pain is not a personal problem, it's a national crisis hiding in plain sight. Do the math. Nearly 1 in 4 adults in America admit they're dealing with ongoing pain, and about 1 in 10 are so crushed by it they can't even live normal lives. That's tens of millions of people quietly walking around as if they're functional, when in reality, every step, every movement, every damn breath feels like a negotiation with their own body. And you still think this is just about bad backs and old age? The data Sanjay Gupta pulls together is brutal. Chronic pain is now more common than new cases of diabetes, high blood pressure, or depression. Read that again. Pain is outpacing some of the most talked about conditions in modern medicine, yet nobody's screaming about it. Why? Because pain doesn't kill you fast enough to make headlines. It doesn't bleed in the streets. It just robs you slowly, drip by drip, until you're a shell of yourself. The medical system calls it subjective, which is code for we don't know how to measure it, so we don't take it seriously. That's why millions of people are left invisible, dismissed as complainers, addicts, or fakers. Look around you. 2 out of 3 people over 65 are living with some form of pain. It's the neighbor mowing his lawn with clenched teeth, the woman at the office who cancels plans every Friday night because she's secretly curled up in agony. Hell, maybe it's you, chewing ibuprofen like Skittles and telling yourself it's just stress. But the fact that so many of us hide it proves the point. We're conditioned to think pain isn't legitimate unless you've got a cast on your leg or a tumor on an MRI. Invisible suffering doesn't sell sympathy, and that's where the real scandal is. The healthcare machine has no interest in solving this epidemic because it's more profitable to manage it. A quick prescription, a rushed 5-minute consult, a stack of bills. That's the business model. Treat pain like a leaky faucet you tape over with duct tape, not a flooded basement you fix at the foundation. Doctors are trained to prescribe, not to listen. Hospitals profit when you stay sick, not when you heal. And the pharmaceutical industry? Let's not even pretend. They've turned pain into a billion-dollar annuity. Your suffering is their quarterly earnings. Gupta doesn't sugarcoat it. People living with chronic pain aren't rare exceptions. They're the majority walking among us. Back pain, arthritis, migraines, nerve pain, the list goes on. What's even darker is how messy the causes are. Only a fraction of pain comes from obvious trauma like car accidents or injuries. The rest? It's a toxic soup of overlapping conditions. 20% of people in one survey had up to 5 different factors fueling their pain, and some poor soul had 42. 42. How do you even function when your body feels like it's running a torture chamber from 42 different directions? But here's the part that really punches you in the gut. Most of us won't do anything until pain knocks us flat. We dismiss it as nagging. We drown it in caffeine, booze, or pills. We wear it like a badge of honor, bragging about how we push through. Meanwhile, the body is screaming louder and louder until eventually it stops asking for your attention and just takes your life away. That's the quiet war being fought all around you. People are dying inside long before death actually comes. So here's the uncomfortable question. Are you one of them? Because if you're pretending you're fine while waking up sore every day, if you keep blowing off the signals your body is throwing at you, you're not strong, you're delusional. Pain doesn't reward silence, it punishes it. And every day you ignore it, you're signing a contract that guarantees your future self will be weaker, slower, and more broken. The beauty of what Gupta is saying is this. There is hope, but only if you stop pretending. The first step to beating this epidemic is admitting that pain is real, it's common, and it's not your fault. It's not weakness, laziness, or bad luck. It's biology, environment, and a system stacked against you. Stop hiding it. Stop normalizing it. Start talking about it, demanding better care, and refusing to accept that endless pain is just the way it is. Because the minute you accept pain as inevitable, you hand over your freedom. Key takeaway: pain isn't rare, it's everywhere. The crisis is not just that millions are suffering, it's that most of them are ignored, minimized, or gaslit into silence. Until we start treating pain as the epidemic it is, nothing will change. Favorite quote: there is a very real path forward through pain and beyond. Origins of agony, where pain is born. You think pain lives in your back or your knee or that tooth you keep ignoring because you don't want to pay the dentist? Wrong. Pain doesn't live in your body, it lives in your brain. That throbbing in your ankle after you twist it, that stabbing behind your eye when a migraine hits. Those are just signals. Pain itself is your brain's interpretation of those signals, its desperate attempt to make sense of chaos. Which means, here's the ugly truth. Your suffering isn't just about the injury, it's about the story your brain is writing in real time, and sometimes your brain is a terrible author. Gupta lays it out clearly. Pain is not a simple reflex, it's a negotiation between raw sensory data and the meaning your brain attaches to it. That's why two people can have the same injury, and one shrugs it off while the other feels like they're being tortured. It's why some people can survive accidents with broken bones and not even notice until hours later, while others feel crippled by pain from something as small as a paper cut. The brain decides how loud the alarm rings. And here's the part most people don't want to hear. Your brain can crank up that alarm for reasons that have nothing to do with the actual injury. See blood? Pain feels worse. Expect the needle to hurt? Pain intensifies before it even touches your skin. Watch your parents panic when you fall as a kid? Boom, The brain tags that moment as catastrophic, and suddenly your scraped knee feels like amputation. Your pain isn't just physical, it's cultural, emotional, psychological. It's a performance your brain puts on, using your body as the stage. Gupta shares examples like referred pain, where your brain is so confused it makes your jaw hurt during a heart attack or gives you a brain freeze from ice cream in your mouth. Phantom limb pain is even wilder, your brain inventing pain in a body part that no longer exists. How do you explain that with just biology? You don't. You accept that pain is a brain-generated reality, one that can be distorted, exaggerated, even created out of nothing. But here's the kicker. You already know this, you just don't admit it. Ever notice how your back hurts more after a brutal day at work than on vacation? Same spine, different brain state. Ever notice how kids don't cry until they see their mom's horrified reaction? Same scraped knee, different social signal. You can pretend your pain is just about your body, but the evidence is clear. Your brain is the puppeteer, and you're the puppet. And if your brain can create pain, guess what else it can do? It can turn it down. It can rewire. Neuroscience now shows the brain isn't fixed. It's plastic. It changes based on how you use it, which means your relationship with pain isn't carved in stone. You can retrain your brain to process those signals differently. But here's the problem. Most of you don't want to do the work. You'd rather swallow a pill than confront the fact that your thoughts, your habits, your stress, even your damn attitude might be making your pain worse. You want the quick fix, not the hard truth. Think about it. Gupta describes people with absurd levels of tolerance, like a man who walked into the ER with a hip shattered into pieces, barely flinching, annoyed more about missing his weekend than about the pain. Meanwhile, someone else with a clean MRI is practically incapacitated by agony. The difference isn't just biology, it's mindset, history, context. Pain is personal, pain is learned, pain is manipulated by every memory and every belief you carry. That's terrifying, but also liberating. Because here's the real takeaway. If pain is born in the brain, then escape is too. You're not doomed to suffer forever. You're not at the mercy of some cruel cosmic lottery. You have a say. But that means you can't just outsource your pain to doctors and pills. You have to own the process. You have to admit that your mind, your past, your trauma, and your choices are part of the pain puzzle. Most people don't want that responsibility. They'd rather blame their body and stay a victim. But if you actually want freedom, that's the price. You stop lying to yourself about where pain comes from and start rewriting the script. Key takeaway. Pain doesn't live in your body. It lives in your brain, which means it can be amplified, distorted, even invented. But that also means it can be rewired, reduced, and transformed if you're willing to confront the role your mind plays in your suffering. Favorite quote: pain is an incredibly elaborate biological process, but it is also mostly a product of the mind. The mind's prison, when thoughts turn into pain. You ever notice how people treat pain like it's just physical? Like if the doctor can't see it on an x-ray, it must be fake? That's the scam. Because some of the most brutal pain you'll ever experience doesn't come from your body at all. It comes from your mind. And that's where it gets scary. Because if pain can be created in your head, then there's no clear line between reality and torture. Your brain becomes your own prison guard, tightening the cuffs, turning the screws, making you suffer even when your body is perfectly fine. Gupta makes it clear, pain is inseparable from emotion, from memory, from stress. You've seen it, you've lived it. Your headache doesn't just happen, it shows up after your boss yells at you, or after you've been doom scrolling the news for 3 hours, or when you're running on 2 hours of sleep. The body is fine. The mind is chaos, and chaos hurts. You can't separate your pain from your mental state any more than you can separate smoke from fire. Take kids, for example. Children aren't immune to pain. They're actually some of its earliest victims. And how do we deal with them? We downplay it. You're fine, get up. It's just growing pains. We train kids from the start to doubt their own pain. But here's what's wild. Studies show kids in real distress often carry that wiring into adulthood. They learn that their pain doesn't matter, that they have to push it down, ignore it, bury it. And what happens when you bury pain? It doesn't disappear, it festers. It rewires the nervous system, teaching the brain to misfire alarms long after the danger is gone. That's why so many adults are walking around haunted by aches that can't be explained. They were programmed to believe their suffering was imaginary, and now their brains are caught in the loop. It's like trauma on replay. Veterans relive explosions in their dreams, and their bodies react as if they're still in combat. Abuse survivors flinch at shadows decades later because their nervous systems never stopped firing. Pain is no different. The mind tags certain experiences as catastrophic, and those tags don't fade. Instead, they show up years later as migraines, as fibromyalgia, as mystery pains no scan will ever explain. That's not weakness. That's your nervous system overprotecting you, like an overzealous guard dog that bites everyone, even the mailman. But here's the punch in the gut. You do this to yourself daily. You catastrophize. You expect pain, and so you feel more of it. You tell yourself, this backache means I'll never recover. And boom, the pain doubles down. Your mind is feeding the flames, and you're too busy playing victim to notice you're holding the gasoline can. It's not that the pain isn't real, it is, but the volume knob is being twisted by your thoughts, your fears, your history. Gupta points out that even placebo pills, sugar, nothing, can reduce pain if you believe they'll work. That's not placebo magic. That's your brain editing your experience. And yet, you'd rather believe in a pharmaceutical miracle than admit your own mind might be the problem. Because if it's the mind, then fixing it means you have to take responsibility. And responsibility is harder to swallow than a pill. The most chilling part is that children show us how deep this runs. Kids in chronic pain often become adults in chronic pain. Not because their bodies are broken, but because their nervous systems learn to live in survival mode. And instead of treating them with compassion, society labels them dramatic, lazy, or fragile. So they grow up with shame, layered on top of agony. Imagine being 10 years old, feeling something you can't explain, and being told by adults it's nothing. That's not treatment, that's gaslighting, and it wires the brain for a lifetime of doubt and distress. So here's the brutal truth. Pain is not just a symptom, it's a story your mind is writing, sometimes against your will. And if you don't seize control of that narrative, your life will be dictated by ghosts of the past, by imagined catastrophes, by loops of suffering you never chose but refused to interrupt. Stop blaming your body for everything. Start asking what story your brain is telling. And if that story is turning you into a prisoner, you better start rewriting it before the walls close in. Key takeaway. The mind is not just influenced by pain, it manufactures it, amplifies it, and sustains it. Your suffering is real, but the script is often written in your brain, not your body. Until you confront that, you'll stay trapped in a loop you don't even realize you're fueling. Favorite quote, "Pain is a trickster. It blurs the line between the real and the imagined, the physical and the psychological." Unseen warriors, women in pain. You want to know the dirtiest secret in medicine? Women aren't believed. Not fully, not equally, not consistently. A man walks into the ER with chest pain. Every alarm goes off. A woman walks in with the same symptoms, and half the time she's sent home with a suggestion to rest or manage stress. This isn't some fringe conspiracy, it's documented. Women wait longer for pain medication. They're more likely to be dismissed, told it's in their head, or accused of exaggerating. And then people wonder why women are overprescribed opioids at alarming rates. It's not mystery, it's neglect. Gupta doesn't dance around it. Women are more likely to suffer from chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia, migraines, and autoimmune disorders, yet they're less likely to get their pain taken seriously. That contradiction alone should piss you off. And the cultural gaslighting goes way deeper than a doctor rolling his eyes in an exam room. It's baked into history. For centuries, women's pain was labeled hysteria. The literal root of the word is uterus. That's right. Medicine once treated suffering as a side effect of being female, and while the terminology changed, the attitude never fully died. But here's the modern twist. When doctors do decide to treat women's pain, too often the prescription pad comes out. not better diagnostics, not more personalized care, pills, opioids specifically. And that pipeline of dismissal, followed by over-medication, created a perfect storm. Women, particularly middle-aged ones, became one of the largest demographics caught in the opioid crisis. Not because they were reckless, but because they were desperate and ignored. When your doctor doesn't believe your pain but still shoves narcotics at you, what do you think happens? Dependency, shame, ruined lives. Here's the part most people don't want to hear. This problem isn't just the system's fault, it's cultural conditioning. Women are taught to downplay their own suffering until they're collapsing in silence. They apologize for being too dramatic. They wait until the pain is unbearable. And by then, the system is ready to throw drugs at them instead of listening. And society cheers that on. We romanticize women who endure everything, mothers who push through agony, wives who put everyone else first. That glorification of self-sacrifice is a trap, and pain thrives in it. Think about your own life. How many times have you watched a woman in your family shrug off pain until it got so bad she couldn't walk, couldn't work, couldn't function? Maybe it was your mom, your sister, your wife, and what did you do? Probably nothing. Maybe you encouraged it. Maybe you said, "Don't worry, you're strong." And in doing so, you became part of the problem. Because strength without validation is just silent suffering. Gupta shows us that this is not just anecdotal, it's systemic. Women are more likely than men to be given sedatives instead of painkillers for the same symptoms. More likely to be told they're anxious, not injured. More likely to be cycled through medications instead of referred to specialists. And when opioids are introduced, the cycle becomes vicious. Tolerance, dependence, shame. The same system that ignored their pain now punishes them for trying to silence it. So here's the uncomfortable truth you need to face. The world doesn't take women's pain seriously, and neither do you. And if you're a woman watching this, maybe you've stopped taking your own pain seriously too. That's not empowerment, that's brainwashing. The fight here isn't just about medicine, it's about demanding equal treatment, refusing to be silenced, and refusing to let your suffering be minimized until it turns into a prescription and a tragedy. The bigger picture? This is a warning for all of us. If the system can write off half the population, what makes you think it won't do the same to you when it's convenient? If women are invisible in their pain, the rest of us aren't far behind. We are living in a healthcare culture that prioritizes efficiency, profit, and liability over listening. And if you don't raise hell about it, you'll be next. Key takeaway: women's pain is underestimated, misdiagnosed, and over-medicated. Not because it's less real, but because medicine has been built on dismissing it. Until that cycle breaks, suffering will keep getting passed off as stress, only to be numbed by drugs that create a whole new prison. Favorite quote: women's pain has always been minimized, ignored, or dismissed as imaginary, and too often the answer has been to medicate rather than to understand. Decoding the enemy, finding what hurts, naming what's hidden. Let's be brutally honest, most people don't want the truth about their pain. They want a quick fix. You don't want to know what's actually wrong. You want someone to give it a name, hand you a prescription, and pat you on the back like it's all solved. But here's the catch. Until you find the real cause, you're just shadowboxing. You can't fight what you can't see. And right now, millions of people are fighting phantoms because the system can't or won't take the time to decode what's really going on. Gupta explains this better than anyone. Diagnosis is half art, half detective work, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Get the wrong label, and you're trapped in treatments that don't work, side effects that wreck your body, and years of wasted suffering. Get the right one, and suddenly the path forward makes sense. But here's the problem. Most doctors don't have the time, or honestly, the curiosity to dig deep. You're in and out in 15 minutes, given a prescription, and shoved out the door. It's not medicine, it's triage for profit. Think about your own life. How many times have you gone to the doctor, explained your pain, and walked out with nothing but a vague answer like, "It's probably stress," or "You'll just have to live with it"? That's not clarity, that's laziness wrapped in authority, and you probably accepted it because deep down you were too scared to push back. We treat doctors like gods, but gods who can't be questioned are just dictators. If you don't demand better, you won't get better. Gupta shares stories of patients who went years misdiagnosed, being told their pain was psychological or exaggerated, only to later discover real, tangible conditions driving their agony. And here's the kicker: those years can't be bought back. Every wrong diagnosis steals time, energy, and trust. Some people lose their marriages, their careers, their hope, all because no one bothered to look closer. And let's not act like diagnosis is straightforward. Pain doesn't show up on an MRI like a neon sign. Two people can have the same image, one writhing in agony, the other completely fine. That's why finding the root cause takes more than a machine. It takes listening, context, patience, qualities that modern medicine often sacrifices on the altar of efficiency. We built a system that rewards speed over accuracy, billing codes over breakthroughs, and the result is a nation full of people half treated, half believed, and fully broken. Here's where you need to wake up. Finding the right doctor isn't optional, it's survival. Not every doctor is the right doctor for you. Some aren't trained in the complexity of pain, some are too overworked to care, and some are just flat out dismissive. If your doctor makes you feel small, unheard, or crazy, that's not treatment, that's abuse with a stethoscope. And yes, it's your responsibility to walk away and find someone better. Stop clinging to the illusion that all doctors are created equal. They're not. Some will save your life, some will ruin it. Diagnosis isn't just about a word on paper, it's about reclaiming power. It's about finally naming the thing that's been holding you hostage so you can stop punching in the dark. And when Gupta calls diagnosis a weapon, he's right, because once you name the enemy, you can start to fight it. But until then, you're a soldier blindfolded on a battlefield, shooting at shadows while the real enemy tears you apart. So here's the choice. You can keep living in the fog, numbing yourself with half answers and half measures, or you can demand clarity, even if it takes years of persistence. Even if it means firing doctors, switching hospitals, asking uncomfortable questions, and refusing to be dismissed. Most people won't do that. Most people would rather stay miserable than confront the discomfort of demanding better care, and that's why most people stay miserable. Key takeaway: clarity is the first act of rebellion against pain. Diagnosis isn't just medical, it's personal power. Without it, you're enslaved to confusion and guesswork. With it, you finally have a weapon. Favorite quote: a good diagnosis doesn't just name your pain, it gives you a chance to fight it. Beyond the prescription, the war on pills. Let's cut through the nonsense. Not all pain is created equal, but the way most of you treat it, you'd think the solution is as simple as reaching for whatever bottle of pills is closest. Headache, pill, bad back, pill, breakup, pill. We've been sold the idea that every problem can be swallowed with a glass of water, and it's turned us into the most medicated nation on the planet. And here's the harsh truth: you don't know what you're taking, why you're taking it, or what it's actually doing to your body. You just trust that if it came from a pharmacy, it must be safe. Spoiler, it's not. Gupta makes the point that pain isn't one thing, it's 100 different mechanisms dressed up in the same costume. Inflammation pain, nerve pain, bone pain, emotional pain, they don't all respond to the same treatment. But instead of decoding what's actually happening, the system just throws pills at you like darts at a board, hoping one sticks. And when it doesn't, they double the dose, switch the brand, or blame you for being non-compliant. That's not treatment, that's gambling with human lives. Here's what no one likes to admit. The over-reliance on medications is not about your well-being, it's about convenience. Doctors don't have time to dig into the roots of your suffering, so they give you something to mask the symptoms. Insurance companies don't want to pay for physical therapy, psychological counseling, or lifestyle interventions, so they reimburse for drugs. Pharmaceutical companies don't want you cured, they want you dependent. Every refill is a payday. And you want the quick relief. You're complicit. You'd rather numb yourself than face the possibility that the solution requires effort, change, or discomfort. Think about opioids, the so-called nuclear option of pain relief. They were marketed as miracle drugs, safe, effective, non-addictive, and people bought it. Doctors handed them out like candy, patients trusted them, and the result was one of the deadliest drug epidemics in American history. Families destroyed, lives lost, and yet even after all that carnage, people still beg for them, because they work until they ruin you. That's the trap. The relief is real, but so is the price. You trade a little less pain now for a whole lot more suffering later. But it's not just opioids. Even over-the-counter painkillers, Tylenol, Advil, Aleve, are treated like harmless household items, when in reality they can wreck your liver, bleed out your stomach, or fry your kidneys if you lean on them long enough. You don't think about that when you're popping them like Skittles because your neck is stiff from sitting at a desk all day. You just want the ache to go away so you can get back to scrolling on your phone. That short-term mindset is how people sleepwalk into chronic illness. Here's the punch in the gut. Pills can silence pain, but they can't solve it. They don't repair the herniated disc. They don't untangle the nerves. They don't heal the trauma stored in your body. They just put duct tape over the warning light on your dashboard. And when the car finally breaks down, you act surprised. You shouldn't be surprised. You should be ashamed. Because deep down, you knew that masking the problem wasn't fixing it. You just hoped you'd get away with it. Gupta's whole point is this. Pain is complicated, and so is its treatment. No pill in the world is going to be the silver bullet. That doesn't mean medications don't have a place. They do. They can be life-saving, stabilizing, even necessary in the short term. But if they're the only tool in your toolbox, you're building your house out of glass. Pain management isn't about sedation, it's about strategy. And if you're relying solely on prescriptions, you're not managing your pain. You're just outsourcing it until it comes back stronger. So the question is, are you willing to stop being a passive consumer of whatever drug is shoved in front of you? Are you willing to ask harder questions, to demand better answers, to take responsibility for the way you treat your body? Because if not, don't cry when your so-called cure becomes your new disease. Key takeaway: pills can numb pain, but they rarely solve it. Using medications as the only answer is not treatment. It's avoidance dressed up as science. Until you confront the real source, you're just trading one prison for another. Favorite quote: not all pain is the same, and not all treatments are salvation. Rewiring the battlefield, mind, body, alternatives. Let's get one thing straight. The war on pain will never be won if your only weapon is a pill bottle. You can't drug your way into healing. You can't sedate your way into strength. Pills can numb you, sure, but they don't fix the battlefield. They just lower the volume while the war rages on. If you actually want to get out of this alive, you need new weapons. And no, I'm not talking about miracle cures from late-night infomercials. I'm talking about rewiring how your brain and body even process pain in the first place. Gupta lays it out. The future of pain treatment isn't about stronger drugs, it's about smarter strategies. Acupuncture, physical therapy, meditation, yoga, cognitive behavioral therapy. Tools that most people sneer at because they don't come in a prescription bottle. People roll their eyes at alternative medicine as if it's some hippie nonsense, while they're simultaneously wrecking their liver with Tylenol and praying to the gods of Big Pharma for relief. The irony is insane. Science is finally catching up to what ancient cultures knew all along. Your mind and body aren't separate. They're a single battlefield, and if you ignore one side, you lose the war. Here's what most of you don't want to admit. Your pain is being amplified by the way you live. Your crappy posture, your junk food diet, your endless stress from scrolling social media, your refusal to sleep like a normal human being, it all compounds. You think popping ibuprofen after sitting hunched at a desk for 10 hours is treatment? That's like pouring water on a house fire with a Dixie cup. Meanwhile, physical therapy could actually retrain your muscles, mindfulness could rewire your brain's pain pathways, and exercise could release natural chemicals that crush pain without wrecking your organs. But that requires effort, and effort isn't convenient. Gupta talks about the placebo effect, but not in the way you think. Placebo isn't about fake medicine. It's proof that the brain has power over pain perception. People taking sugar pills often experience real relief, Not because the pill is magic, but because belief triggers the body's internal pharmacy. That's the point. Your mindset isn't fluff, it's biology. If belief alone can reduce suffering, imagine what happens when you combine that with proven strategies like meditation or guided therapy. But most of you would rather scoff at woo-woo solutions and stay chained to the very pills that are slowly ruining you. That's not rational, it's cowardly. Let's talk exercise. Nothing fancy, just moving your body. Do you know what happens when you actually strengthen your muscles, stretch your tissues, and get your heart pumping? Your pain thresholds change. Your body literally becomes more resilient. Yet people would rather sit, stiffen, weaken, and then whine about their pain while looking for the next prescription refill. If you don't use your body, it falls apart. And when it falls apart, don't act shocked that it hurts. And then there's the mental side. Chronic pain rewires your brain. It creates loops, grooves, and default settings that make suffering feel automatic. But therapy, mindfulness, and even something as simple as focused breathing can interrupt those loops. It's not magic, it's neuroplasticity. Your brain is plastic. You can teach it to stop screaming every time your back twinges or your nerves misfire. But here's the thing, you actually have to practice. You can't do one meditation on a Sunday and expect your brain to suddenly turn into a Zen garden. This is training, and training takes discipline, which, let's be real, is why most people will never try it. Here's the truth you don't want to face. Alternatives aren't alternatives. They're essentials. They're not plan B. They're the foundation of any real recovery. Drugs should be the backup plan, not the first line of defense. But our culture has it backward because it's easier to sell pills than it is to sell patience, effort, and lifestyle change. And you, deep down, would rather be sold than saved. That's on you. So the choice is this. Keep numbing, keep spiraling, keep clinging to the fantasy that salvation comes in pill form, or rewire the battlefield. Train your brain, train your body. Use the tools that actually change your biology instead of just smothering it. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it, because real power doesn't come from masking pain, it comes from mastering it. Key takeaway, pain isn't just something to be medicated, it's something to be retrained. The mind and body can be rewired to process pain differently, but only if you stop chasing shortcuts and start using strategies that actually change you. Favorite quote, the most powerful pharmacy for pain relief already exists inside your own brain. The long game, building a pain-smart life. Here's the problem. Everyone wants to fix their pain instantly, but no one wants to play the long game. You want the magic bullet, the 10-day cleanse, the overnight cure. But here's reality. Pain doesn't play by your timetable. It's not a weekend project you can wrap up with a bow. It's a lifelong negotiation, and the sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop being a victim. Gupta makes the point that pain management is not just about fighting fires, it's about fireproofing your damn house. Prevention matters, building resilience matters, but most of you don't care until it's too late. You'll abuse your body for decades, garbage food, zero exercise, chronic stress, sleepless nights, and then act shocked when it revolts. You don't suddenly develop chronic pain, you earn it through years of neglect, and if that stings, good, because until you take ownership, you'll never escape it. The book talks about the habits that protect you: movement, posture, stretching, nutrition, mindfulness, sleep. These aren't luxuries, they're the foundations of a pain-smart life. But what do most people do instead? They treat self-care like a spa day, an occasional treat, not a daily necessity. You don't get to skip the basics and then cry about how unfair pain is. You don't get to live like trash and then demand your body perform like a machine. You want less pain? Start acting like someone who gives a damn about the body they live in. And let's talk about those of you already living with chronic pain. You think the game is over, you're broken, doomed, done, wrong. The long game isn't about eliminating pain entirely, it's about learning to live fiercely with it. You don't wait for the day it magically disappears. You adapt, you bend, you build systems, routines, and mental strength that let you live well even when pain tags along. That's victory, not waiting for a miracle, but refusing to surrender. Gupta tells the story of patients who rebuilt their lives not by chasing the next pill or procedure, but by rewiring how they lived, small adjustments, smarter routines, and most importantly, refusing to let pain define them. That's the hidden power in all of this. You can't always control the pain, but you can control how much of your life it's allowed to steal. Pain might be the uninvited guest, but you decide whether it camps in your living room or rots you from the inside out. Here's the harsh reality check. If you're waiting for someone else to fix your pain, you've already lost. No doctor, no medication, no surgery can save you if you don't change the way you live. Pain doesn't care about your excuses. Pain doesn't negotiate with your comfort zone. Pain will eat everything you love if you let it. The long game is about taking back control piece by piece, habit by habit, choice by choice. And most people won't do it because it's hard. But if you're serious about living, you don't have a choice. So stop looking for hacks. Stop waiting for miracles. Start building. Build resilience in your body with movement. Build resilience in your mind with discipline. Build resilience in your life by refusing to be defined by suffering. That's the long game. It's not sexy, it's not fast, but it's real. And it's the only way you'll ever stop being at the mercy of pain. Key takeaway: pain may never disappear, but it doesn't have to own you. Mastering the long game means building habits, resilience, and systems that let you live fiercely in spite of pain, not in fear of it. Favorite quote: victory doesn't come from eliminating pain, but from mastering it, bending it, and living fiercely in spite of it. Conclusion. So here's the truth. Stripped of all the excuses you've been hiding behind, pain is the enemy you've been ignoring, the parasite you've been feeding, the silent dictator you've allowed to run your life. You've been numbing it with pills, hiding it behind fake smiles, pretending it's just getting older. But after everything we've broken down, you don't get to lie to yourself anymore. You know better. You've seen the truth. From Sanjay Gupta's mother whispering that she couldn't live with the agony anymore, to the millions of silent sufferers gaslit by a system that doesn't listen, to the women dismissed as hysterical, the kids told to tough it out, the addicts trapped in the opioid spiral. It's all one story, a story of neglect, denial, and cowardice. But it doesn't have to end that way. Pain may be universal, but surrender is optional. What this book has been screaming from page 1 is simple. You have more power than you've been told. Your pain isn't just in your body, it's in your brain, your habits, your environment, and if it's shaped by those things, it can be reshaped, rewired, mastered. Not with shortcuts, not with blind faith in prescriptions, but with clarity, discipline, and the guts to face it head on. You can choose to keep living like a hostage, begging for temporary relief, chasing the next pill, waiting for someone else to fix what only you can confront. Or you can step into the long game. You can build a life that doesn't deny pain, but outsmarts it, bends it, and robs it of its power. That's the difference between existing and living, between being a victim and being unstoppable. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about motivation, it's about survival. Pain will not wait for you to be ready. It's here, it's happening. And the only question is whether you'll let it strip you down or whether you'll rise up and fight. If you want the full arsenal, the deeper stories, the practical steps, buy Sanjay Gupta's It Doesn't Have to Hurt. Read it, study it, because this breakdown isn't a substitute, it's a call to arms. The book gives you the strategies, the science, and the stories that can change how you live, but only if you actually pick it up and use it. So don't just click away and forget what you heard. Don't crawl back to your excuses. Do something. Buy the book. Start the fight. Rewire your brain. Rewire your body and take your life back. Because the war with pain is coming for all of us. And the only question is, are you going to keep being a casualty or are you finally ready to become a warrior?